Welcome to an exclusive BTC webinar. I'm Janet Gordon with Behind the Chair. We're excited to introduce for the first time with us at BTC Webinar Land, social media powerhouse, working colorist and stylist, educator, mom, Jamie C. We're so excited to have you with us tonight. How are you doing?
Hi guys, I'm absolutely thrilled to be here. I'm so excited for tonight. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're super excited too. We have an action planned evening, and we have a lot to cover. So while everyone's registering on, or I should say logging on, we're going to run through some announcements for everyone. As a quick reminder, within the next 2 to 3 days, you'll receive an email from Behind the Chair with links to the playback along with an e-ploma that you can print and complete for yourself. Be sure to check your inbox and spam folder so you don't miss that email in the next 2 to 3 days. Secondly, let's take a look at a very exciting event we have coming up May 1st at the Orpheum Theater in Los Angeles. BTC on tour. For those of you who enjoyed our event in Chicago last year in March, we are taking the show on the road to Los Angeles and the beautiful historic Orpheum Theater. And guess what? We're announcing tonight. Guess who is going to be joining us in LA on May 1st? Jamie.
Yay! Can't wait.
Woohoo! So this will be Jamie's first time to appear on stage with BTC on tour. We're super excited to have her. If you go to behindthechair.com/on tour, in the coming weeks, you'll be able to see the entire lineup as it's released, and the tickets will be going on sale very soon. So again, go to behindthechair.com/on tour. Another brand new announcement this evening, as many of you probably have already heard, Stylist Choice Award is moving to Premier Orlando. So it will be the evening of Sunday, June 4th. New location, Stylist Choice Awards is getting even hotter. We're moving to Florida. So for more information on tickets, which will be going on sale very soon, as well as more information about that evening, go to behindthechair.com/stylistchoice. behindthechair.com/stylistchoice. We're super excited to be moving to Orlando. Next up, Color Cut and Style in Austin, Texas, August 20th through the 22nd. Save the date. You can book your hotel now. And actually, we are really blowing it up already with room reservations. You can go to behindthechair.com/the-show and also get more information on the hotel availability. We will be releasing the announcement very soon on when tickets will go on sale and the lineup for this event as well. Rumor has it that Jamie just might be joining us here. Possibly. We hope to see you, right, Jamie?
I think I might be there.
All right. Well, we'll see how that works out. I think you might be there because we'll turn to you for your feedback on this event, the One Shot Awards. Join us for One Shot 2017, again Sunday night, August 20th at the JW Marriott in Austin. Jamie was the winner of our ombre category last year. How did you feel about about the One Shot Awards, Jamie?
Oh God. So there is no words to even explain the capacity of emotions that you'll feel. Even if you're just a guest there, it's absolutely, the stage will take your breath away. It's absolutely spectacular. And it's a true and genuine sense of community as well. So highly, highly suggest people go. You absolutely won't regret it, I promise.
No, I promise to. It's not only is it inspiring and exciting, there's such camaraderie and such a great sense of community
Absolutely.
with so many of the artists, the educators, the membership there from the community, from people like yourself, working stylists and colorists behind the chair, along with your favorite artists, all together in one room. And you spend
It's
time,
incredible.
yes, you spend time mingling, enjoying each other's presence and communicating. It's incredible, one of a kind event. But next up, we really want to share very quickly. You're going to this evening, you'll learn some incredible color techniques that you can use behind the chair tomorrow. But let's jump from that to the next webinar, which is February 13th, Monday, 7 o'clock Eastern. We have Robert Chromians with us, who's going to teach you how to become a $100,000 a year earning hairdresser. Robert is known for his powerful business presentations, and he's very excited to be joining us live here in 2 weeks, so we hope to see you. You can get information at shop shop.behindthechair.com/webinars. One last announcement before we dive into some very exciting news with Jamie speaking about Valentine's Day and Robert speaking on February 13th. February 14th is just around the corner. We have the very fun, cute, great retail, spontaneous retail item in the Invisibobble, in the pink Valentine gift bagged. We hope that you would consider using these for retail and also for your updos. Again, at shop.behindthechair.com. Now, in addition to the webinar this evening, we have a very, very exciting announcement. This is the first time we're releasing this information live on one of our webinars and on BTC today, the launch of BTC University. It's an on-demand education center for the best in cutting, coloring, updos, men's work, and business training. If you enjoyed Jamie tonight, you can check out her exclusive 3-video Balayage series on btcuniversity.com. This is education on demand. You don't have to wait for a link in your inbox. You set up your own library. You purchase all of the education that you choose. It goes into your library online. You set up your own user account. It's really very simple and very quick. Jamie, can you tell us about the 3 videos that already are up on the BTC University?
Sure, it'd be my pleasure. Okay, so what I have for you guys on here is in-depth painting, sectioning, how to create money pieces, face framing baby lights, my techniques for faded foiling, processing times. I have all of my in-depth explanations of everything. And I have to be honest, I put my heart and soul into this, and I tried to get, as much footage and angles for you guys to feel like you're actually there with me, learning from me. So I'm very proud to have this out there for you, and even more proud and excited to be on Behind the Chair University. You guys do not want to miss it. It's an incredible, incredible site. It's just absolutely stunning.
We encourage all of you to get on tonight and play around. You can set up your account. You don't have to purchase anything, but we do have some little free short clips in the library. Also, some that go anywhere from $2.95 up to $5.95. Short educational pieces on cutting, especially in the cutting arena, from other artists that you're very familiar with around the globe. So take a couple minutes of your time when we're done here tonight. Go to btcuniversity.com and just play around. We're super excited. It's a one-of-a-kind. It's powered by Behind the Chair, and Jamie has been so gracious enough to help launch that with us this evening. For those of you who already have her 3-video series, Balayage Badass, she will be providing more content in the near future. So for those of you who don't have it, you have an opportunity to purchase each of the 3, or you can buy them as a series for a specially discounted price. So again, this is education on demand. You set up your own library. Once you purchase the on-demand series or an on-demand video, it's yours forever. It goes into your library. You can watch it as often as you like, as frequently as you like, and at any time you like. So once again, congratulations to Mary and the team at Behind the Chair for putting together such an incredible program, and we can't wait to hear how all of you like it. Any other thoughts? How useful do you think this would be to a stylist or a colorist, Jamie?
I feel like this is incredibly useful information, not only for colorists, but people who want to expand their knowledge on hair cutting. It's fantastic. I mean, BTC University has an incredible array of information for everybody, but just my videos in general, these are one of the, some of actually the most requested tutorials out there, and balayage is huge right now and everyone wants it from you guys, so educate and feel comfortable and confident, and it's all there for you.
So we look forward to getting your feedback. Again, visit btcuniversity.com and learn what we have there, and then please share with us your thoughts. So let's go ahead and get started. Why we're here this evening is to welcome Pretty Little Ombre, Jamie C., our BTC 2016 One-Shot Award winner in the Ombre category. Again, owner and founder of Balayage Badass. She's the studio owner at SALT. She teaches balayage, business growth education. Of course, she's a hair color expert, and So important. She has a combined social media following of over 170,000. So, Jamie, let's dive right in. Everyone's anxiously waiting. We have the majority of you are here, and the others will get with it. So let's dive right in.
Ooh, let's do it. All right, so what I have created for you was probably three of the most requested techniques, not only by my clients, but most of my students and followers. As a little bit about how I approach color, I tried to find the most simplistic way to achieve organic color without having to overcomplicate the process. I wholeheartedly believe that we can all simplify our color approach and still get amazing results. So I'll be showing you in-depth visuals tonight on how I have accomplished these looks and how you can as well. So we're diving into our first technique, which is color melting. And a lot of you guys have asked me, how do I do it? Who is it good for? And why do I do it? And anyone who's looking to transition the root area a little bit darker, it's great for clients who need gray coverage. It's also amazing for, if someone comes in with a line of demarcation, or especially great for clients that come in who have harsh foil lines and they want to transition to a softer grown out look or a balayage look. And I'll show you guys what kind of look we're going to be going for today.
Okay.
Here is the look that we're going to be creating tonight, and this is a beautiful enhanced brunette, and you can just notice how the colors flow together. It's really beautiful. And then in the next slide, you'll see how I have created a diagram for you, and this is just another way to give you guys a visual representation of how I'm going to approach this. And you can see on the left-hand side, I've created a key of the root color, the low light color, and the highlight color as well. So I do want to say the importance of later on in the evening, I will be sharing all of these formulas at the end of each application. So as I go throughout this, I will not be stating what formulas I'm using, but I will be giving you guys everything that I've used in these formulas. Okay. So in the next one, we'll go to our step 3. I've applied the root color to zone 1 and just done like the traditional 4 quadrants. And then basically what I do next is I take my foiling comb and I just lightly comb down about 1 inch. And what this does is it creates a soft transition line. And it's really important to know that I don't just do this on the top. I go throughout the head and I do soften everything. And you'll see in the next slide.
Okay, I was just scrolling through a few of the quick questions here. To all of you asking about taking notes and about trying to take photos on your computer or your cell phone, you don't need to do that. You will be receiving the playback link to this that you can watch as often as you like. You can stop it, start it, go back, advance. So no worries. We'd love for you to listen with us and watch and ask your questions on the right-hand side of your control panel, and we'll try to get to as many of those as we can.
Thank you, Janet. Okay, now what I do after I've applied the root color, what I'm doing, and I want you guys to know that this is just another approach for me to create very simplistic color application. So I'm just using the top surface areas. I don't use the underneath. And for a lot of you who follow me on Instagram, this is what I call my wide plank panels. And it creates a very beautiful look. So starting in the front, what I do is I take about a 1 inch wide section and I'm just going to lightly connect my root color and balayage lightener together. And a lot of you also have asked me, Jamie, how do you not get this warm band of color where the balayage lightener and the color meet? So it's very important to remember not to overly saturate balayage lightener on top of your root color. Because basically what that does is it creates almost like you're diluting the product. So it's just important to remember to just lightly meet them together. You're just kind of softly connecting them, not overdoing one more than the other.
And a question about your choice of brush here. What are the benefits or what is your preference in using a larger paintbrush versus say, a traditional color brush? Why do you choose to use that?
The reason I use the paintbrush is the bristles are actually a lot softer and a little bit more dispersed than a traditional application brush, which is a little stiffer and a little bit more straight horizontal across. It also allows me, well, that would actually, why that works the way it does is because it creates a really soft, it's almost like it blurs it instantly versus with a traditional, a traditional application brush. I feel like I'm working harder than I have to. And also, the brush is actually thicker and wider than a traditional brush, and it covers more space, so it saves you time behind the chair.
And also, when you are doing gray coverage, do you tend to come down through that root application color a little deeper to make sure you get all the gray, or do you prefer to have it very mixed in the tones?
Now, if I am doing this with someone who has gray, and this client had just a little bit, what I'll do is if it's a lot of gray, like say 75 to 100%, I will do just a root color, and then I will mix something separate to add into zone 2, maybe like a demi-permanent color. Now, this guest only had a little bit, and I actually used a lower developer on her. So I only combed it down about 2 to 3 inches.
Okay, that's great. Great. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Now, what I'm using here is called thermal paper, and thermal paper, most of beauty suppliers carry these. It's a kind of a really happy merriment between balayage film and a foil. It's not as light as balayage film, but definitely not as clingy, and it's definitely lighter and airier than a foil, but it's also a heat conductor, but not as much as a foil. And the reason I like to use these is it is nice to be able to keep the moisture in while I'm working, and it's also nice to just separate it out of my way, and I just really like this product. So what I do next is right next to the surface panel that I just did, I'm going to take a 1.5 inch wide section and apply the mid-low light color, fully saturating it through zone 2. And guys, remember what the diagram looked like when I'm doing this. You know, I'm alternating. It's a nice, beautiful pattern that we have. So, if you ever get lost on why I'm doing this, when you get the playback link, I highly suggest, studying the diagram that I created for you.
Mm-hmm. And to answer the question about the lighteners that Jamie uses, at the end of this technique, there is a slide that lists all of the formulas and the specific products, and Jamie will share with you why she chooses those products for each particular activity that you see in these slides. But one last question about that paintbrush you were using before. How wide do you suggest they select that brush?
I generally gravitate towards the 2-inch one. You can use a smaller one. It's better for precision work, but I personally really love the 2-inch. The 2-inch is my go-to.
Okay, and you are surfacing only.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then where can they find a thermal paper?
I think any kind of beauty supplier has them.
Okay, like any of the beauty supply stores that they frequent, just go in and ask for thermal paper.
Absolutely. All right, so now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going into, now once I've completed saturating through the low light color, I'm going to lightly surface paint the balayage lightener onto zone 3, and it's important to realize how I'm saturating the ends here. I'm just saturating maybe 2 to 3 inches up, and very important to be light-handed and to realize how much paint is on your brush while you're painting. And then once I'm continuing to insulate into the thermal paper, I'm taking 1.5 inch wide sections, and I paint the balayage lightener from zone 2 to 3. So I'm alternating saturating the mids to not saturating the mids. And you'll see why in the after. Okay, so if we go to step 7, I'll show you a little bit more here. Now I've created this diagram here, and it has another key here where the root color, the low light, and the existing color that I didn't paint, and the highlight, they all live in here. So this is my wide plank paneling section, and I'll show you in the further slides ahead exactly how I create this. Mm-hmm. So when you are creating this, you're going to take 2-inch wide sections, and this is going to go right above the occipital bone. And I'm going to take my balayage lightener, and I just marry the lightener and the root color together, not oversaturating one more than the other. And I'm going to paint all the way through zone 2 and zone 3. And it's very important to know that when you are painting a section this thick, I know some people are like, I'm getting these horizontal strange lines when I'm blow drying, and the reason why you're getting those is because you're oversaturating a thick section. So you want to make sure if you're going to saturate high up, it's on a thinner section. So these are not the ones you want to saturate. So what I do is I actually just lay it on the palm of my hand and almost use it as like a balayage board, and I just lightly surface paint the whole panel.
And one quick question, when you're doing this, do you get concerned at all about product on your hand? Do you wipe the gloves off in between, or?
I wish they could see me in person while I'm at work. I have like 2 towels next to me at all times. I'm constantly wiping my hands off. And the top of my glove actually always has balayage lightener on it, but the underneath is generally pretty clean.
Okay. And on to the next.
Thank you. Now, what we're going to be doing next is, it's almost like an optical illusion. So the way to make light seem brighter is to neighbor it by depth. So what I'm doing here is I'm just taking a 1-inch wide section and fully saturating zone 2 with my low light color. And, you know, if you want a little extra pop, you can saturate it all the way through. It's totally fine. But I just wanted to show you guys how to simplify your color applications. Once you're done with the low light color, you're going to do identical sectioning to the highlight again. And if you have to, go back to the diagram that I have created so you can see the pattern that I'm creating here.
What?
And yeah, you can see the low light color. Yeah, you can see where the highlight lives, you can see where the low light lives, and this is just a beautiful way to create a sun-kissed glow.
And again, Jamie will share the specific lighteners and the color products that she'll be using with us here in the next few slides. Let's see, another question that's coming in, will you do this on virgin hair? Do you do the same technique on someone who has previous color? How do you approach these differently?
Okay, well, I approach these, a lot of the reason why I do these is because a lot of my clients either want a little bit more depth and dimension, and you can do this on someone who has virgin color. You don't even need the root color in there. You can absolutely do this technique just by incorporating the wide plank panels, and it's going to create a beautiful surface color, and even people who have layers, this actually looks really beautiful on them. And I really do love doing this with, it's almost like an add-on service just to kind of create a little bit more zazz to their hair, is just by adding, you know, some wide planks all the way throughout. And actually, the photo that actually won the One Shot Award was actually this technique. So you guys get to see it in full action.
That's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that the other question that's coming through was to jump back to this step just to see the big picture view of what you're doing and how you're sectioning. And then with this, are you using the thermal paper again for separation?
Yes, once I'm done with that, you'll see in the next slide that I do put the thermal paper on top.
Okay, great.
And then once I process her, I actually do process under it's almost like a heat lamp. You know, they have 3 arms. You can move them to where you need the heat the most. I try to shy away from traditional hooded dryers because that doesn't really get the bottoms as much as I need them to. So I process under the gentle heat until I like the level of lightness, and then I shampoo, I apply the gloss, I finish, and usually create a nice bleachy style to finish it off.
Okay, and let's see, the heat lamps, do you use those all over the head, or do you direct them to certain portions of the head? I'm seeing a lot of questions about the heat lamp.
Yeah, so I actually, it depends on where I need the heat the most. Generally, I'll just leave them all on, and it creates a really perfect, distribution of heat all throughout the head. But you can also, they're bendable as well and flexible, so you can, direct them more towards the bottom if you're trying to lighten the bottoms a little bit more. They come in handy. They're really great. I love them.
Mm-hmm. And do you ignore the nape section with this placement?
I do. Yes, I do. It's just this all surface painting, just the top areas, and you'll be surprised with how less is more.
Right. Well, let's real quick, and let me take a couple more of these questions, but let's jump ahead. Let's look at the end result, and then let's go back to that last slide because there are a lot of questions just to see what this finished effect is. Can you explain, looking at the photo now and the different sections, how, again, why you chose to place the color this way?
Yes, so you can see here very clearly how all the colors melt beautifully together. Now, my guest had not, we had done this look on her about 2 or 3 times in a row, so we still have left the underneath out, and it still just lays on the surface beautifully. And it's a beautiful merriment between light and dark, and it just looks very organic and natural.
Yes, it does.
And I think this technique is pretty versatile.
And how do you avoid getting splotchy? How do you not get splotchy results?
Oh, there's a lot of reasons why. You'll actually notice I have a lot of information on the splotchiness is in my tutorials on PTCU in the balayage video. There's tons of information on how to avoid splotchiness. But one that I will give away is making sure your tension is very, very taut. It's incredibly important, and making sure that you are being very aware of how much product is on your brush. Oversaturation is one of the biggest things.
Okay. And then for you at your skill level, how long does it take you to apply this type of color technique?
I would say 20 minutes.
Okay.
It's actually, once you get the hang of it, it's actually very simple. And you can modify it however you want once you understand, a little bit more of the diagram that I gave you guys. You can modify it for your guest as much as you want.
And those low light sections, again, I'm seeing several questions, and I think just to reiterate the point, are you saturating the low light sections or just surface painting those as well?
I am fully saturating. I am fully saturating. Yep.
Okay. And then for a client with layers, would you take the paneling a little bit lower so that it reaches the length?
You could. You could. I have noticed with clients with layers, the actual sectioning that you do, it takes care of it. I've done this on clients with a lot of layers. I've done it with clients that don't have a lot of layers. In this case, my guest did not have a lot, only a little bit in the front. And it does really well with everything. It just tips out the bottoms beautifully.
Mm-hmm. And for the clients who have existing highlights, perhaps they had highlights with foils, and they want to switch to more of a balayage look, how would you transition them?
Exactly this way. Exactly this way. You're going to be able to create, you do a root color, you comb it down, you do a low light color in between, you do, some surface painting, and it'll all flow together. And someone who also, this is a big piece of advice for you guys who are transitioning, transitioning somebody who has been doing foils for a very long time. Just know that maybe it might take 2 sessions to really get them where they need to be, but as long as you're open and honest about that whole transition, it's totally fine. It's just, if you were to think about if you were trying to get brunette to really blonde right away, it just doesn't happen sometimes. So just be very open and honest about the transitional periods, and I think that they'll appreciate that even more and enjoy the process.
Right. And do you put the thermal paper under the wide plank that has lightener on it or just on top?
I just lay it right on top.
Okay. Okay. And you don't worry, we're almost done with this scrolling of questions, and then we'll move into the formulas. So you don't worry, these are some great questions coming in. So you don't worry about painting below the occipital bone.
That is correct. That is correct. And it's one of the most surprising things, because I think a lot of clients, stylists rather, have a very strong idea about making sure everything is colored. And I actually think the opposite. I think you can create color by doing less. I think you can still give a tremendous amount of power and a substance to a color without having to touch every single piece. Sometimes it's just not necessary.
Yep. And last 2 questions, I think, and we'll move on to the formulas. Those paint brushes, a gal's asking, she believes she could get those at an arts and crafts store.
Sure can.
They don't have to be super expensive, but you can find them at
Oh,
arts and crafts.
yeah. Yes, for sure.
Okay, and
One thing I do want to say about the paintbrushes is they are disposable. So you are going to get maybe 2 to 3, sometimes 4 or 5, depending on how often you use them, uses out of them. And just make sure you're not leaving them in the bleach when you are painting because that'll kind of disintegrate the bristles a little bit more.
oh, good tips, good tips.
Yeah.
Let's see, does the root color in the low light need to be real close? Ooh, good question. The levels.
Yes.
How far apart do you recommend being on these levels?
Well, it really depends on how organic you want the color to look or how dramatic you want the color to look. So in this instance, I wanted all the colors to marry together, and I believe I used a level 6 at her root, and her low light actually was a level 7. So they were only one level apart from each other.
Yep. Okay. That's great. Well, so helpful. And again, to everyone who's just joining us, you will be receiving a playback link to this webinar so that you can stop it, start it, take notes, do whatever you need to do at your own convenience. So within 2 to 3 days, you'll receive that playback link. So let's look now at the color mount formula, the products you use, and if you could share in some detail why you selected each product here.
Absolutely, Janet. All right, so for my client, I used the Joico BA, which is a blue ash, and I tend to use, when you're lightening somebody with a root color, you want to make sure you have some kind of counteractive tones in there because brunettes tend to lift pretty warm. So I like to use tones that are maybe green-based or blue-based, or in this case, a level, it had a beautiful merriment of both, so I used the blue ash with a 13 volume. And the reason I used a 13 volume was because this client only had a little bit of gray, and I wanted to, obviously not just deposit because then that wouldn't cover any gray, but I didn't want to use a 20 volume because I didn't want her to lighten too much and cause any of those, harsh underpigments to come through. So a 13 volume actually is a beautiful combination between 10 and 20. So 13 volume, if you haven't used it, is a really wonderful option. The mid-low light color that I use, and when I do use low lights, I tend to always use a demi-permanent because my clients seasonally, we like to shift their tones, and if you tend to use a permanent color throughout their ends, it's going to be harder to shift them. So make sure that you're using a demi-permanent just in case you do want to shift their tones seasonally. I used the Redken Shades 7NB, which is a chestnut tone. It's a really beautiful tone. If you guys haven't used it, I highly recommend it. It is my absolute go-to for lowlights. It's incredible. So, and on to what I used to paint was the Scruples Power Blonde Clay Lightener, and I used that with 40 volume. And I know a lot of people always ask me, why do you use 40? And the answer for that is clay lighteners versus aggressive foil lighteners tend to only light in maybe 3 to 5, sometimes 7 if you're lucky, levels of lift. So you need a little extra power, and they're much more gentle, I feel, than the abrasive foil lighteners. And in there, I use the Brazilian Bond Builder just for a little extra protection. And the reason why I use the Brazilian Bond Builder is because it doesn't dilute your developer strength, and it also doesn't slow down your processing time. And actually, if anyone who has used this will maybe agree with me, is when you rinse it out, it smells like Italian cookies, which is awesome. I love Italian cookies. So that leads us to what I glossed her with, which is the Redken Shades EQ, which is their demi-permanent line. And I used an 8N and a 9V. And the reason I use 9V is because anyone who follows me on Instagram knows I probably use I sprinkle 9V into everything. It's just one of my favorites. It creates a beautiful neutral. It cuts out any harsh brassiness, and I use the neutral in there just to kind of create a nice soft natural color.
That's great. Excellent. And one last look. Again, the end result here, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Okay, let's move on to the root smudge technique.
Absolutely. Okay, so this is highly requested now. A lot of my followers are asking me tons of questions about root smudging. So I wanted to hone in on this and give you guys some information on how I do it. And who is this right for? You know, you think about, okay, so you have, you know, anyone who wants a rooted look but likes the brightness of foils, and anyone who wants to actually transition slowly from traditional foils to balayage. A lot of your guests, I know this has happened to me. I don't know if this has happened to any of you guys, but I have a guest who, you know, is maybe a traditional foil guest, and they see these, you know, Pinterest photos, and they're saying, oh, I want this dark root, and I want this, and I want this, and then you put it on them, and they're like, oh, God, I really just love being blonde. And this is a really great way to kind of slowly introduce that look to them without it being too high maintenance or, you know, something you're going to have to bleach out afterwards. So I'm going to show you guys now how to do that. This is the final result of what I'm going to show you how I achieved, and this is one of my ultimate favorite tones. It's like this beige and sandy complexion, and so I absolutely love this for blondes. And you can see in the right-hand photo, you know, how beautiful just that subtle transition of tone is in the root area. It's not harsh. It's almost angelic looking to me.
Mm-hmm.
Very so I'm going to show you guys how to do that.
Beautiful. You have lovely models. Are these all your clients?
Yes.
They're
kind enough to model for me.
Yes, we all want hair. These are clients. That's the beautiful part of this. So, and again, Jamie we're thrilled to have her launch the BTC University with us at btcuniversity.com. Of course, you have these 3 exclusive techniques that she's teaching for behind the chair webinars tonight. But for those of you who missed the beginning section of the webinar, we launched btcuniversity.com this evening, and Jamie has 3 full-length videos, DVD-type videos on the BTC University that you can add to your own library and review as many times as you like, whenever you like. So when you're done tonight, please be sure to check out btcuniversity.com, play around with it, set up your username and password, and download some of our free. There's a handful of free tutorials there, and also some messages from some great artists.
All right, so basically what I'm going to be creating here is, it's almost a traditional foil, but there are some little things that I'm going to create here. I section the back into 2 working areas, and then what I'm going to be doing is taking thin horizontal sections starting at the nape. And this is really great for anyone who wants to create a really brighter blonde look right away. You can do this kind of technique, and it's almost like a balayage look. So it's really, really great option for your guests.
And again, Jamie will be sharing the formulas, the exact products and formulas that she uses for this technique when we get to the end of the step-by-step.
Yes.
All right. Are we ready?
I'm ready. So the way I'm doing this is I am creating a medium foil weave, and I'm going to be doing this all the way up to the top. But you're going to notice, if you look at this photo, you're going to see how much more saturated the bottoms are than the top. I feather the side of my brush into the top so you don't get that really harsh horizontal line with foils. I'm not a huge fan of foils. For anybody that knows me, doing a traditional foil is not something that I just hate those horizontal lines. So I've created this way to kind of feather the lightener in there. So it just creates a little bit of a softer effect. Mm-hmm.
And are you starting at, again, for those who weren't clear, starting at the nape or around the occipital bone?
Yeah, and will you be right at the nape, yeah.
Okay. And then you'll be moving up?
Yes.
Okay. And if they have dark color treated hair already, how do you tackle that particular situation if you want to?
Probably in the exact same way. You want to try to get as much lightness as you can for this technique. And so dark hair, it does, you have to be realistic about expectations. My guest here is a natural level 7, so I can be realistic about what I can achieve with her, which is probably, at a 7, I could probably get her to a 10 pretty easily.
Yep.
So if you're going, with a natural level 5, just be realistic about the tones that you're going to be able to achieve.
Okay.
Or I don't leave too much hair in between, but I do use a little tiny bit. I'm doing a heavy foil here, and this is just to get as much brightness as possible. I'm going to continue using medium weaves all the way up her head in the two working areas, and you'll see in the next step how I'm going to be doing that. Yeah, here I am. Okay. There I am. Okay, so once you've completed going all the way up and using medium foils, and medium weaves rather, all the way up to those two working areas, here is my favorite part, which is the money piece. And what I'm going to be doing is showing you guys how to create that look. I've sectioned this into a mohawk section, and this is going to create that really powerful pop. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that in the next step.
Okay.
What I'm doing here is I take, instead of weaving, I'm actually taking 3 small slices right in a row. I'm not leaving any hair out in this. I'm starting right in the front of the hairline, and I'm just going to take 3 small slices right in a row.
Okay. And let's see. What about clients that like to wear ponytails or pull their hair back? Do you apply differently when you first, I'm sure you initially talked to them about how they normally wear their hair. If someone wears their hair back a lot in a ponytail, would you approach the application a little differently?
No, this whole application, whenever they pull their hair back, it actually flows beautifully.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You just make sure when you're taking your slices that they are thin. You're not taking huge slices.
Yep.
They are still thin. I can see right through them. Okay. Once you've completed those 3, you're not going to leave any hair out, and you're going to go back to the medium weaves rather, and you're going to go right back up through the whole mohawk section, leaving a tiny bit of hair out in between, and you're just going to go all the way up using the medium weaves, and then we're going to go to the next step, which I'm showing you is the side view. And actually, you'll see here in the lower photo exactly how I feather the lightener up. I'm using almost the tip of my brush, and I'm just lightly getting that up there. And I usually start in the middle of the section. You know, when I pull it up, I don't start right at the root. I build product towards the middle and slowly work my way up. And I'm doing this identical throughout the whole head.
Okay. And you are off scalp. It looks like about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch.
Yes, and you'll see that when it's processing, and I'll show you guys that in the next one.
And in this particular client, what is her natural level, her natural color?
She's about a natural level 7.
Okay. Let's see.
Okay, so now you can actually see, for whoever said it was about 1/8 of an inch, you can see exactly there. I've lifted her to a pale blonde, and you can see just that little bit of demarcation there towards the root. And I do that on purpose because when you actually add the root smudge, it actually creates this really beautiful soft transition for when their hair starts to grow out. They don't get any harsh lines.
Okay, and one question, actually, if we can, about that 13 volume developer before, do you purchase that as 13 or do you make 13 volume?
You can purchase it as 13 volume. Wella has it.
Okay, great.
Yep. You can also mix the two. It doesn't really matter. You can mix them if you want to, or you can purchase it.
Okay, and if you were going to mix, what would you mix?
I would probably just do equal parts of both.
Okay. Okay, I'm just scrolling through questions here. Let's move on to the next step.
Okay, now for the root smudge. You can see here that I'm going to be, I washed it and I rinsed it and I towel dried it lightly. You want to make sure it's not sopping wet because that's going to dilute the color a little bit more and you're not going to get as much intensity. And I'm applying the root color about 1 inch down, and I let that process for about 5 minutes. But you can also see on the top picture there that I leave those little money pieces out, and there's a reason for that. And then you'll see in the next step how I do that. Oh, by the way, I am putting this color all the way throughout her head, almost like a traditional color application. So I'm not just doing the top and the back. I'm doing all throughout the sections.
Like a root touch-up, a whole head root touch-up.
Exactly. Just like a root touch-up.
Okay.
And once I'm letting that sit, I lean her back into the bowl. And I have a separate formula for her blonde pieces. And I just apply that all over, and I start from the bottom up, and then those money pieces actually I touch last. And those, I let that all kind of marry together. I don't smush it all together. I just kind of smush the ends a little bit and just kind of make sure everything's fully saturated. And I let that sit for an additional 8 to 10 minutes. So the root color actually ends up staying on for about 15 minutes.
So the total processing time for this particular client was about 15.
For the root smudge, leaving it on for about 15 minutes, and her gloss actually stayed on for about 10. But if you want to leave it on to the full maximum I usually use Redken, and their max time is 20 minutes, but you can just add maybe a little clear to that and let it sit for the 20 minutes. But I really love not using the clear because I get this really beautiful like pop of intensity with the tone. And once I add the clear, it kind of dilutes it, and I don't get as much intensity.
Okay, and with this was all over, so even the those 3 sections that you lighten in the front included.
Yes, so you can see me applying it there, and then I apply it all over.
Yep. And then do you gloss on? Is it towel dried basically the hair?
Yep, yep, it's towel dried hair.
Okay. All right, let me jump to the next one here. So let's talk about the finished look. Beautiful.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. You can see how that root smudge actually just softened her top area, and how you can see on the left-hand side here how she still has that pop of blonde right in the front, which is stunning, and I love it. And you can see also how my gloss created that really sandy beige color, which a lot of my clients have been requesting, and I'm very happy because it's just a beautiful merriment between cool and warm tones, and it's really flattering on a lot of different complexions. But I do have a little secret on how to choose your level of root smudging. So, for example, here, my guest was a natural level 7, and I smudged her with a level 6. So I always suggest, if you're going to keep it looking natural, play between 1 to 2 levels of their natural color. So for example, if it was a level, she was a natural level 5, you'd maybe use, a 5 or a 4 to gloss or to smudge with. And if someone wants a little bit more of a dramatic lip, you can probably go between, maybe 1 level darker, and then that would work out as well.
And what type of brush did you use for this technique?
For the application?
Yes.
For the root smudge, I just used a normal brush, but yeah. So it's for that application. It's not it's actually easier for that kind of root color application with a traditional just a traditional application brush.
Right. And would this technique work for an already heavily highlighted blonde client?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I just love this. It creates such a beautiful effect on the hair, and it's, like I said, it just looks angelic, It looks so natural. It doesn't look like she just got a traditional foil all over her head.
And it looks like we'd love to see some clarifications on that mohawk section, so I'm going to move back to that, the parting. We just want to see you again, girl. This is a great shot. About her parting. Did you try to follow her parting lines on either side, or did you just select?
Yes, she actually parts her hair is in the middle most times, or slightly less, slightly right. But I do like to ask my guests, where do you part your hair the most? And I'd like to play off of, wherever they part their hair, I like to play off of that area.
Mm-hmm. And what technique are you wearing? I love this. Beautiful color.
Oh, thank you. I think it's exactly what I did.
It looks familiar, beautifully familiar. Okay, let's take a look if everybody is good with this application technique. And once again, you'll have this playback so you can stop it, start it, take notes. You also, as you follow Jamie on social media, of course, we're trying to answer as many of your questions as we can, but you can always feel free to ask and direct questions to herself as well. One thing that's great about BTC University, again, you can stop and start and play the videos. I'm seeing a couple questions. Jamie's Badass Balayage and the 3-part series that she has on BTC University right now is different. It it is not they are not the techniques that we're teaching this evening. Okay, let's look at some formulas for root smudge.
Okay, so here we go. We have the Kevin Murphy Color Me Bleach, which is a traditional foiling lightener. And in her root area, because she also had some brighter ends, I kind of divvied up the volumes just to choose appropriately. For the roots, I used something that was a little bit more powerful because they were darker. And then for her ends, I used a lower developer because she was already pretty blonde, but I did want to make it a little bit more blonde than it already was. So that kind of just, you don't want to put a 30 volume all over existing blonde because it's going to cause tremendous damage and you do not want to do that. And again, I use my Brazilian Bond Builder. And for anybody who's just tuning in, the reason I use that is because it doesn't slow down my processing time and it also doesn't dilute my developer. So I love it. And for the root smudge, I use the Wella Color Touch, which is their demi-permanent line, and just a natural level 6. And I use the 5 volume developer, which is just a deposit. And the reason why I like to use the demi-permanents for root smudging is because it just ends up just fading softer than a permanent color. I don't like to add permanent color to the hair if it's not necessary, unless it's gray coverage. And then for the gloss, I use the Redken Shades EQ, and I use the 9 Violet and the 9 Pearl together with the processing solution. They were equal parts, and I left that on for about 10-15 minutes until I was really happy with, I had explained that before, it was at 10 to 15 minutes total until I really loved the tone of her blonde. And a little tip with the Redken Shades, you want to never walk away from when you're glossing them. It has a lot of strong pigmentation to it, and if you want to know more about how I gloss too, I have more in my videos on BTCU.
Okay, and a quick question, from start to finish, your, of course, mixing, application, processing time to where you're completely done with the color technique before you style it out, how long does this type of service take you?
So this actually did take me quite a while because foiling, almost all of the hair, like I said before, I didn't leave very much out of the foils. So overall, the whole process probably took me about 2.5 hours.
Okay, which would make sense when you think about
but it did create a pretty dramatic look in terms of how bright she got. So keep that into,
Right. And again, this was with foil or thermal paper. Could you use either or? Do you have a preference?
I wanted to achieve the brightest blonde I could, so I wanted to use the highest heat activator, so foiling was my preferred choice.
Excellent, excellent. That answered several questions. And here's an interesting one, and I think a lot of colorists have clients come in that either had existing techniques, whether it was ombre, whether it was another technique, and they really wanted to transition into something totally different like this. So if you have someone that's a level 4 or 5 with a previous ombre and they do want to transition into something like this, is that possible? How would you tackle this? Would you do anything differently?
Okay, well that does depend on the type of look that they're going for. What you're going to do is, in that case, if the ends are all blonde and you have a really dark, zone 1 and 2, you're going to want to do the same kind of technique, but maybe wait until the end, maybe leave the ends out and then just focus on really starting to brighten up the mid and root color so everything becomes more cohesive, and then you can still add, that beautiful root smudge and pull it all together.
Okay. And then for the clients, what advice would you have when you have a client that has an abundance of those tiny baby fine hairs around their front hairline? Do you have any tips or suggestions on how you deal with those?
Oh my gosh, this is such, okay. I actually have really awesome tips. I have the halo brightening technique, which I have in I think I have them in 2 of my videos on BTCU, the faded foiling technique and the baby light technique. So you guys have to check that one out. There's a lot of tips on how to deal with the baby hair, so you don't want to miss that.
Excellent. That sounds good. Okay, well, let's move on then to the next technique for the evening.
Sure.
Multidimensional balayage. You're so famous for this globally. I'm sure.
Thank you.
Share the magic with us.
I would love to, Janet. This is my favorite technique, and I actually have I've never really gone over this, in my Instagram feed. I have slightly, and then I kind of backed away because I really wanted to save this one, and it's so easy. It's so easy and beautiful. So the guests who are good for this is pretty much anybody, but if I had to bullet point it, it would be people who are looking for low maintenance color, and also it's really amazing for people who are heavily blonde or have been heavily balayaged and want to start transitioning, adding some depth in there. Or even people who maybe have their summer blonde and you want to change them seasonally. This is a really great technique for them.
All right, beautiful.
Oh, here it is. Okay, as you can see here, you have a beautiful, transition of color. I added a highlight and a low light in between here, but you can't really tell one more than the other. It's just kind of organic and lived in, and you can see there's a little bit more pop around the face, and I'll show you guys how to create that as well. And this is what I call almost like sea inspired. The ocean had, they had spent, time in Hawaii, and this is what they'd come out looking like.
So your placement is really based on how you would perceive the sun would naturally lighten the hair.
Bingo.
Excellent.
Exactly.
Excellent. All right. Well,
you nailed it.
Dive in here then.
Okay, so here we are with the sectioning, and I'm going to section the back of the head into 2 working areas, and then I have the crown section. You want to even imagine it if you were just to take the top of the hair, like if you were to put a crown right on top, that's the whole sectioning, and the top of the section actually is about maybe 3 inches from where the starting hairline is, and I'll show you afterwards why I have created it that way. So once you have all of those sectioned up, you'll see how I start now on the side. And this is, I start with 2-inch thick sections. I divide them into 2 working areas, and then you'll see here in the next slide how I start to paint this. And what I do is I always make sure that my balayage lightener is always face framing, and then the neighboring low light is always behind it. So you can see here now I am painting just the surface of the hair. You can notice very closely how there's still, I'm not fully saturating the whole piece. And the reason I don't do that is because if you are doing a traditional balayage is just painting the surface and maybe just lightly saturating the ends. And what this does is this already creates a built-in low light for you. If you're going to saturate the whole way through, you have just a chunk of blonde. And it doesn't look very natural, but if you are trying to achieve a brighter look, that is a route you can go. Now for the low light, go ahead.
Can we jump back for just a second? So the question we're seeing on the side panel, when you say divide them into 2 working areas, are they vertical side by side, or are they stacked on top of each other?
They're side by side.
Okay, so the lighter section is in the forward, it's behind. In the lower photograph, it's in front of the section that you're holding.
Yeah, and you'll get a better view of that as we go along.
Okay.
Okay, so you can see here how on the bottom you can actually see it's almost like a forward view of that now that scene that you just saw. And you can see how I'm just lightly surface painting the top and just maybe 2 to 3 inches saturating the bottom. And a little tip for you guys. When you hold your piece, make it a habit to hold your piece up and look underneath, because the biggest problem that a lot of people have is that they overly saturate and they're not looking underneath. The top should look just as beautiful as the bottom, so make sure that it's still just as blurry and pretty as the top. Mm-hmm. I am fully saturating the low light, but only from, I'm pretty much matching a little bit more of her natural, so I didn't feel like I had to add it all over from root to end. I'm doing basically zone 2, zone 3 on this, but I am saturating all the way through.
And are you using any type of paper or foil or anything, or you're just laying the hair gently?
Yes, I'm going to be using balayage film with this.
Okay.
And there it is. And each section that I do insulate it with a sheet of balayage film. And the reason I do this is it still gives me a view of how my blonde is processing. And it also just divides the sections really beautifully, so nothing is laying on top of each other. Also, it keeps the problem with clay lighteners is they dry out pretty quickly, and if you want to achieve as much brightness as you want to make sure that you're insulating it with a balayage film so you can achieve maximum lightness. Now, as we go along, I'm continuing to take 2-inch thick sections going up the hairline. And just the more section space you have, the more 1-inch sections you'll be able to separate. So here, I have more surface area that I'm working at, and now I have 4 sections to work in because there's more area to work with. And I'm always making sure that my balayage lightener is going face framing, because that's going to create a little bit more extra pop. And then the neighboring section is a low light, and then so basically the pattern is going to go light, dark, dark. And that's pretty much the whole pattern throughout the head.
Great. And again, for those who didn't hear earlier, you will be receiving a playback link to this entire webinar, so you can stop and start the PowerPoint as often as you need, go backwards, forwards, completely at your own leisure when you have the time to do it. Let's talk about the balayage film. Where do you find that? Do you get it in certain lengths?
I use one that actually has perforated edges, so you can customize the length to what you need. But there's some. I think that's the only one that I use. So I'm not really sure about the ones that are out there. But it just comes in a big roll, and I remember when I first started using it, I used like the Reynolds one. but I don't suggest that. It's too clingy. Yep. So you can go to any beauty supply store, and they're always fully stocked.
Now, one more quick question about, let's see, let me jump. I was going to say that was root smudge. When you feather down, are you applying it from point to point, or you just, when you saturate, you go through, try to saturate all the hairs?
I am painting the surface, and then I'm only saturating the very bottoms. I just feel like this creates a really soft look, and you still get that built-in low light.
Okay. Let's see then, let's jump on. If we're ready, we can go on to the next step.
Yes, great. And here is the representation of what we just did, the finished product rather. And you can see here right towards the top, you can see how I'm going up a little bit higher, and I almost dip down a little bit. And that is how I create a very lived-in look. I'm utilizing her natural color and basically just trying to replicate what the sun would naturally do. If you do have a guest that wants a little bit more of a powerful look, you can take the pieces up a little bit higher and still use the same pattern of light and dark and go throughout the head that way.
Okay.
Once you've continued that, you're going to do the identical sectioning on the opposite side of the head. And you can work off of where the client parts their hair, but it is a very versatile look, and you're usually always going brighter on the hairline. So it really will be able to create a versatile look for your guests, whoever parts their hair, if they want to. I call them what do they call them, the tossers. They toss from left to right. This is fine for them as well. But, you can work off of the guest's natural part if you want to. And just create the exact same pattern as you did on the opposite side.
And how would you approach this for a client with gray hair?
I would probably put the root color on first, and then because I don't really go up really, really high with the balayage lightener, I'm just kind of softly integrating it into where her natural parting is. You can probably get away with doing just kind of almost integrating the root melt with this one and kind of making them one, I suppose. Just using the same pattern, but with a root color.
Yep. And then let's see, anything else? Let's go on. Now let's go on to the next slide then.
Perfect. And for step 8, I'm really excited to share this with you guys. I want you to take a second, and I want you to visualize yourself on the beach in the sun with your hair down. And if you are a boy and you don't have long hair, imagine looking at somebody who has long hair. And imagine how the sun hits your hair. Where does it bleach it out? Where does it hit the most? And it's never internally underneath. So this is an exact replication of what the sun would do. So I've taken the thicker sections, and because you want to think about the smaller sections you take, the brighter result you're going to get. The thicker sections you take, the more built-in low light you have, which creates more of a subtle look. And what I'm doing here is I am dividing the section that you see into 4 panels. So you can see me working on one, and then I do end panels. So the end panels I paint, and then those 2 pieces that you'll see in the middle I saturate with the low light color. And that's going to create the most organic look, and you're going to continue that up through the back sections.
Okay.
So here we go. You can see I continue taking the 3 end sections, and I'm still insulating them in the balayage film. And you can see on the right-hand picture, I think I got only 2 sections. I only did 2 sections throughout almost the whole back of the head, and that's just amazing because think of how fast it is. The whole application takes no time at all. So I alternate 1-inch wide sections throughout the whole back once I get a little bit higher up, because you want to imagine now the sun may be hitting this a little bit more, so you may need a little bit more brightness. And I alternate the 1-inch wide sections with the balayage paint and saturating the low light color all the way throughout. And it's just a simple pattern of light and dark all the way throughout.
And
that easy.
With most of your clients, do you tend, especially in these techniques you've shared this evening, do you tend to cut them first and then do the color application, or cut afterwards? Yeah.
Always. It's very, very, very important to cut first. You want to color based off of what their cut already is. Mm-hmm. You're building color off of their style, essentially.
Yep, that makes good sense.
Yeah.
So you're alternating the highlight and the dark sections in the back, but not in the extreme front that frames the face will be all light.
That is correct.
Okay. All right.
Okay, now we come to the crown section. And the reason I did this was, again, another attempt for simplistic color placement. And you basically take the top section down. You're going to comb it all the way through, and sometimes you can work based off of, sometimes people's hair splits in different directions, and you maybe want to work color towards how their hair falls. But in this case, my guest had a very easy hairline to work with, so I had a very easy time to create this. But take into consideration if your client's hair does fall in a different direction, to kind of, maybe create a little bit more brightness, so there's no, varying degrees of just open holes of depth where their hair may split. What I did here is created exactly that. There you go. I alternated the 1-inch thick sections, again, identically to the below section, and I created that all the way throughout. So you can see on the right-hand side exactly what that looks like. And you can see how in the transitional area, which I call, is very beautifully feathered. It looks very natural. There's no product seeping. It's a very light-handed application. And then again, I am just lightly saturating the ends.
And this is on the surface, and this is are you layering all the way up, or is this surface only?
I am just doing surface, yeah.
Okay, so if we jump back to the slide here, you're just taking sections and applying it, nothing underneath.
Correct.
Okay.
Now you'll see exactly how the back looked here. So you can see all of the alternating panels, and I've insulated her completely. She looks really good there. And once we've completed that, and you can see those are my heat lamps that I use all the time. And I use that until maybe 30 to 45 minutes, or until desired level of lightness. And you can, keep checking on them, making sure they're feeling good. Never just leave them there and just leave them there. Please, go and make sure they're feeling good. Checking how light they are, and make sure they're comfortable. And then once they're there for, however you like the lightness of the color, and then you're going to shampoo, apply the gloss, and then style them.
Yes. And do you bricklay the colors, or are they just straight stacked?
They are just straight.
Okay. And what is the consistency of the lightener that you like to work with?
Okay, that depends on the brand, because a lot of different brands, they require different amounts of developer. But if you want to think of it this way, I work off of my glove, which you'd see in the videos in the BTCU. I show a lot about my mixing ratios and everything like that. So if you're ever worried about, that, I give a lot more information there. But I always work off of my glove, and I also make mention that you should be able to flip your hand over, and none of the product should move. But, so it's not too liquidy, but it's also not too pasty either, because then it's too hard to maneuver the product.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the heat lamps, again, for someone who doesn't have heat lamps, would they need to use a hooded dryer, or could they process at room temperature? What would you suggest?
I would suggest not doing a hooded dryer for this, because a lot of the application is more towards the mids and the bottoms, and a hooded dryer really is only truly good for maybe the crown, but not towards the bottoms. So I would probably suggest maybe room temperature for that, if that's the case.
Okay.
It might just take a little bit longer, but that's okay.
They're loving on your heat lamps and want to know where does one find heat lamps like this?
Oh, where did I get this heat lamp? That's a very good question. Minerva Beauty. Okay. And they have them there, but I don't know where else, but that's where I got mine from.
Okay. Is it a beauty supply in your area?
Yeah, I got it online. I got it online. Yeah.
That's great. Great. I'm sure if they Google professional beauty heat lamps, they could probably
just you'll be able to find them.
And as always, check with the distributor of your beauty supplies as well.
Absolutely. They may be able to get them in for you as well.
Yep. Okay, let's look at some formulas. First of all, going back to the end result, absolutely stunning, so natural, so soft. Who wouldn't want to have hair that looks like that?
I want my hair to look like that.
Absolutely gorgeous. So let's look at the formulas and share with us your reasoning for these.
Absolutely. What I used for her was the equal parts of the Oligo Balayage lightener and the Extra Blonde lightener together. So with the Oligo brand, you actually can, they're all built to be interchangeable with together. So you can actually create a little extra power to your balayage lightener, and that's why I used it for that. And I used it with the 40 volume developer. And the reason I used the 40 volume developer, like I said before, balayage lighteners tend to be a little bit on the slower side. They're a little bit more gentle, and you need a little extra kick. So that's generally why I use 40. And again, I use my Brazilian bond builder because it doesn't slow down my processing time, and it doesn't dilute my developer, so I get the most power out of it, but also a lot of protection. The low light color I used, like I said before, with my low lights I tend to always use a demi-permanent because I'm always shifting tones with my guests seasonally. Sometimes they just want to be brighter just for the heck of it, and it's a lot easier to change someone's tone if you're not working over a permanent color. Mm-hmm. I use the Joico Lumishine, the demi-permanent line liquid color, and equal parts of the 8 natural ash and the 7 warm natural brown. And I really used this because her natural was a 6, but she had some existing lightness towards the bottom, and I really wanted the lightness and the low light to just complement each other. I didn't want to use something that was too dark so that the dark and the light didn't look too stark against each other. I wanted them to kind of just blend really beautifully, so I didn't use anything that was too dark. And again, I used the Lumishine 5-volume developer just to deposit it. For the gloss, I used the Redken Shades EQ equal parts. Oh, so I do want to share this. This is one of my favorite new processing glosses is the 9 Violet, the 9 Natural, and the 9 RB, which is their blush. And you wouldn't think about putting a neutral, a violet, and a blush together, but it creates the most insanely creamy champagne tone. It's absolutely stunning. You guys have to try it. So equal parts of them all, and then just process until you like the tone. Okay.
And do you ever use 2 different toner formulas on different sections of the hair, or typically when you tone, it's an all-over?
It depends on what I'm working with. Sometimes with corrective colors, if I'm working with banding, I will have to do that. Or if I'm, want a deeper dimensional look, I will, do maybe a deeper toner towards the top and then a lighter on the bottom. It really all depends on the look that I'm going for. But in this case, I had already so much dimension that I already had created from the beginning. So that worked out well.
Okay. And then really for all of these looks that you created for us, how do you approach your touch-ups, with these clients? Are they typically wanting to continue with the same process, or do they like to transition to something different?
A lot of my guests, one of the biggest things that I always say is sitting down and talking about, consultation is huge with me, and I really truly feel that if you're going to get a better understanding of what the guests want, a thorough consultation is always very necessary. That is a huge part of the experience that my clients get with me, and I would say that I'm always suggesting new things. Sometimes they come in with pictures and they're feeling sassy and they want to try something, but yeah, so
Excellent.
that's what I would say.
Well, thank you so much. Those are three incredible techniques that Jen shared with us this evening. Again, for all of you, you will be receiving a playback link so that you can watch the video again. You can stop it, start it, take notes, and really review it in depth at your convenience. And another reminder, Jamie is one of the first to launch videos on btcuniversity.com. She has a series of 3 different balayage and color DVDs, we should say, but they're actually online. They're not DVDs. They're collections for you. You set up your own account. You can view them as often as you like at your convenience, and you have your own personal library that you can access from any of your devices. So in the last section of our evening, Jamie's going to share some real quick some real quick tips on social media makeover.
All right, here we go. You can see here now, this is what I do after every guest. I'm always taking pictures all the time. And one very large tip that I will say with you guys is, make it feel like an experience for your guests when you do ask them to take pictures and make sure that they feel comfortable. Okay, so here we go. I do want to just briefly share just a couple little things with you. When I first started my Instagram page, I was able to create a pretty large following within a year, but also I was able to build my book tremendously within 5 months. So here are some of the ways that I was able to do that. Some of the most important things that I would say is to separate your personal page and your business page. If you're trying to grow your business opportunities or grow your clientele, it's incredibly important to make sure that your personal page stays personal and your business page stays all business. And for your bio setup, and that's located on the top of your Instagram page, state who you are, which is very important, what you specialize in, and I would say to not specialize in everything. Someone really is drawn to someone who specializes in something. It's much more alluring that way. So try to keep it to 3 minimum. Your location, where, if you do have a wait time, make that clear. Set a standard of what people can expect from you. So, if they're going to be waiting 6 weeks, let them know so they're not upset when they do reach out to you. And always provide a clickable link and or a contact number. Actually, both is incredible to do, so people can contact you very quickly. Also, you can also make your Instagram page a business page by going into the you can go and actually link it through it's in the Instagram settings. You can link it to your Facebook page. And you can have somebody instantly contact you via maybe phone number. It's all up to you, maybe just email. Your consistency and frequency is number 1. You have to set the standard of expectation for what your followers can expect from you. So the worst thing to do is just post once in a while, or once every 2 days, or once a week. Because if you think about it, why do you want to, if you are going to follow someone, it's for a reason. You want something from them. So, making sure that you are posting quite consistently. Posting clear and captivating content is number 1. It took me a while to understand exactly how lighting worked with my phone. I actually do use my iPhone 6 instead of a professional camera, which I do want to tap into eventually. But right now I'm using my phone. Natural lighting is ideal, and I don't use a ring light, but I do want to eventually. Make sure that the hair pictures are clear. You're taking lots of them, so you have different angles and a clear backdrop. If you don't have a clear backdrop, buy a backdrop, and just make sure there's it's nice and clear and all about the hair. prime times to post would be, my first thing would say maybe first thing in the morning, so you have visual content and you can get enough people to see your work all throughout the day. And you can post maybe 3 to 5 times a day. Just make sure it's not the same photos over and over again. You want to excite people and make them excited to see your work. Your proper hashtags, make sure that it's proper and appropriate for your state and your town that you're working in. from Connecticut, so all of my hashtags are Connecticut related. So CT hair, CT balayage, CT balayage expert, CT salon. I also have basic ones in there like balayage, hair, behind the chair. All of those ones you want to study the strength of your hashtags, because it's essentially a Google engine for your guests to find you. Know your strengths. Who are you as an artist, and who, you want to make sure that you are creating a powerful presence of who you are. I'm a balayage expert, and I love creating color. I don't attempt to try to be anything else but that, and I'm okay with that. And people want to know who you are and what you specialize in and what you do. And I think it's really important also to touch base on the last one, is show who you are as an individual and what sets you apart. And it's really refreshing to see people doing things different and looking, and thinking outside the box. And because we're all artists, and we all, have strengths in different areas. So, it's do your thing, and I think you'll have great success.
That's great. At Pretty Little Ombre, that is Jamie's hashtag, her site, her handle that you can find her on Instagram, and her tremendous following. A couple quick tips here before we get Jamie's closing thoughts. Again, BTC University launched this evening. We're super excited. Jamie, what does this mean to you as a colorist, as a stylist, to have access to education like this?
It's just absolutely incredible how the beauty industry and technology have come to play. I think it's really important to me as a mom too. It's really hard to travel and to see all the classes all over the world. And I think this is just an incredible opportunity for stylists to be able to up their game and add to their arsenal from the comfort of their own home.
And tell us about the 3 videos that appear on this on BTC University.
Absolutely. I have in-depth videos on my signature hair painting, all mixing ratios, how I do face framing. I actually do a little bit of root smudging in those videos as well. My signature faded foiling technique. I show how to do beachy waves. I show my glossing and styling, and it's very, very in-depth, and I promise you will learn a ton. I've put a lot of information there for you all.
All right. Well, please check out btcuniversity.com. Get in there, set up your account, play around with it, look at all the options we have. Jamie's videos, we have some little free videos. We also have a lot of information for you there. So thank you, all of you who are listening this evening, for checking that out with us. Next on the reminder list, real quick, come to see Jamie, please, at BTC on tour May 1st in Los Angeles at the Orpheum Theater. If you go to behindthechair.com/on tour, you'll be able to get the hottest information on who the lineup is and when the tickets come on sale. So please check back regularly with us at behindthechair.com/on tour. Next up in our webinar series, we have Robert Cromians on February 13th. So again, go to shop.behindthechair.com/webinars to sign up to see Robert teach you how to become a $100,000 a year hairdresser. Stylist Choice Awards moving to Orlando. Behindthechair.com/stylist choice for ticket information and all of the latest on what's going on during Premiere Orlando. Color Cut and Style you don't want to miss in Austin, Texas, August 20th through the 22nd. Save the date. Book your hotel now at behindthechair.com/the-show. Jamie, of course, will be joining us for the One Shot Awards on August 20th in Austin. We know that was an incredible experience for her and for everyone who attended, so we hope to see you there. Finally, for the Valentine's Day holiday coming up, this is great for salon retail. We have the Invisible Bauble Duo Packs, of course, in the lovely shades for Valentine's Day. Last but not least, please follow us on all of our social media outlets. Kevin Givens, our amazing social media director, is there to connect you with us, connect you with each other, and share, as Jamie has so much of her incredible information. Jamie, what would be your closing thoughts for everyone this evening?
Oh, this is wonderful. I truly hope that the information I've given you has not only excited you, but has given you some confidence on how to simplify your color placement. And I really do urge you all to please join and come to the One Shot Awards in Austin. It is something like you'll never experience. So I hope to see you guys there.
We hope to see all of you there. We're looking forward to seeing Jamie. More importantly, thank all of you for your time this evening and investing in yourself, in education. Again, you'll be receiving a playback link in the next 2 to 3 days with the link to Jamie's webinar this evening that you can review at your own leisure. So once again, Jamie, thanks for your creativity, your time, and on behalf of all of us here at Behind the Chair, we hope everyone has a great evening.